Greetings and salutations, and welcome to episode 150 of Ref the District. Nice round number, right, Trev?
I
It's
love
Nathan
it.
Perry here.
150?
150.
That's wild.
150. Kind of hard to believe it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Trev and I, Nathan Perry, holding down the fort. Stoner is returning home, but not quite there yet. So we wish him all the best on the safe travels. And here on episode 150, in the cool down, a little true or false session, Trev, that I got for us. I've written all of them out on a piece of paper so I don't forget them. It's all going to be Commanders. It's this season. It's off season. A little draft in there.
Okay.
So people are going to have
My
some
favorite.
fun. Some people are going to have some fun with that. During the game, we're going to be talking about finishing the season and what that should look like for the Washington Commanders. It is the bye week blues here on Ref the District. And so no game for us to talk about. So we will talk about all four games and the rest of the season, what we think Ron Rivera and company should do. And then here in the warm-up presented to you by Don't Sleep Energy, we're going to be talking about the foundation, which pieces of this Washington Commanders team deserve the right to remain here, who is going to be a foundation for the next regime to build on, because we're all just counting down the days there, Trev, as far as it concerns to Ron Rivera's tenure. And if you would like to know who the next coaches can be, you may be able to head out to Bet Online and see some of the odds-on favorites. Bill Belichick, I think, was a 3-1 favorite to the Commanders not too long ago. We hope that's not the case, but Bet Online is going to keep you up to date with all of their wagering news. You can bet on that. You can bet on all of your favorite sports across the board there, not just the NFL, NBA, NHL, but they also have international soccer. They've got UFC, you name it, they got it covered, and it's all right at your fingertips, as well as you can get on the mobile app right there and use Bet Online. If you do, just make sure you use the code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to get yourself a 50% welcome bonus when you do so. Treat yourself this holiday season with that welcome bonus. Bet Online, where the game starts. And of course, we encourage all of our people to bet responsibly. If you're betting at all, no betting here in Oklahoma for me. We don't have any access to that unless we're headed out to a casino. And you know what? I'm just not going to that. But if I were, it would be Bet Online, Trev. I know you threw down some crazy parlays in your day.
Yeah, I kind of had to take a break from that, little gambling anonymous, I had to take
it's serious. It is a serious thing, serious. So we do want to make sure people bet responsibly when they do go out there and bet. Let's see who we got here. We had Locked on Law saying at least we can't give up 45 points this week. But Trev, this defense is so bad. I think they might be able to find a way to lose to the bye week. They're out there getting beat by Tommy DeVito. They can surely get beat by whoever it is in the Cayman Islands or the Caribbean, wherever they're celebrating their bye week. Somebody's
on the practice field.
Yam is just not feeling it on the DC sports, and it is great. It is a horrible time there. Gus is checking in from Puerto Rico, enjoying the bye week. See, Gus is gonna run into a Washington Commander out there in Puerto Rico, and he's gonna throw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. So Gus, thanks for joining us on your trip there out in Puerto Rico. Trev is a part of the foundation here on Ref the District. We're happy to have him back. He had to work last week. Trev, we had a lot of people asking about you. So they're like, did he quit? That. Did he it's like, no, he's adulting. He's adulting. So
it's the holiday season, it's gotta get in where I fit in. So.
Absolutely. Let's talk about this foundation, Trev.
Okay.
Because this is where we have, and this kind of lead into the finishing the season part, but this is what players do we have now that are on the roster that come next season for the next coach, they're going to be like, this is a player I can work with. Who is attracting the next head coach, the next GM? These are the pieces they want. They think that they can build a roster that can potentially win a Super Bowl. Who are those players for you on Washington?
I've got Brian Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just to start off quickly, the adversity he went through, being shot 2 times in the leg. only missing a couple of games, bouncing back, and look at his career he's having right now. So that's pretty cool. Curtis Samuel, you kind of got glimpses of what he did to us back in Carolina days and how we were there. And now he's got somebody here that kind of recognized that too, and is kind of giving the ball and getting it out in space a little bit more than he has been since he's signed here. So, I mean, if you want a nice veteran piece for a foundation, there you go. And then, I mean, Terry McLaurin, just because of what he's done before this season. Not a great season this year, but before that, he's put up pretty much 1,000 yards with 80 different quarterbacks. It's hard to do in the NFL at such a young age too. So he's definitely part of the foundation. That's about it on the offensive side of the ball, to be honest, for me. In defense, it depends. If John Allen wants to harp and make true about his comments he just said on the Junkies earlier this week and be traded, or wants to go somewhere he wants to win, then there goes pretty much our foundation on defense. I mean, Deron Payne, he's a nice asset. I don't know if he's part of the foundation, but he's a nice asset to the foundation, a building block. But as far as defense goes, pretty much Jonathan Allen. Cam Curl, maybe. But other than that, it's not a lot of foundation pieces on the squad right now, bro. So.
No love for our man Tressway. Joining us and saying
Tressway, of course. My bad. Yeah. Shout out to special teams. My bad. Tressway's got to stay.
Terrell Burgess, he's number one on special teams for Pro Bowl right now. I mean, it is. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that either, but it is a fact. We'll talk about the Pro Bowl later in just in the cool down, as there's a part about that there. You're naming a lot of the ones I think of most people. Dominique also saying that Brian Robinson's one for his. Locked on Law saying no one. And I think this is a sentiment Locked on Law is having that we're seeing across the board with a lot of fans, because there's essentially what it comes down to is that mindset is no one is off the market. So if the next GM comes in, everybody should be up for trade, whatever improves the team. And I understand that sentiment to an extent. I do think that there are people, Trev, that are on this roster that you keep because they make your team better. Terry McLaurin, as much as in the Day After Reckoning, I talked about how he is a wide receiver too at this stage. I thought he was going to make the jump from a top 10 to top 15. I thought he was in the 10 to 15 range. Okay. Coming into this season, I thought he was going to make the jump into the top 10, like solidify himself there. He's fallen back. I think he's in that 15 to 25 range. And I think if you get a different wide receiver, a big body wide receiver, I think that, he would easily slot into that wide receiver too. I kind of mentioned Allen Robinson. You remember him from Chicago?
Oh, yeah.
He was the number one wide receiver. People was like, he's talented. If you just get him a QB, he's going to blow up and he's going to be great. He put together several solid seasons there in Chicago. And then he moved on and did nothing.
Now where is he?
Yeah, last I remember he was with the Rams, maybe, but I mean, I think maybe he got traded off of that, and that's how I think Terry McLaurin is that he is a quality wide receiver. He's forced into the wide receiver one role here, and he's definitely the best wide receiver we have on the roster. Sam Howell talked him as being the most talented player on offense, but yeah, I think that he, especially because he's going to be 29 at the start of next season, but I agree with you that he's a foundational piece there. I think that he is somebody you want to have on your roster. He's going to make your QB, whoever that is. If it's Sam Howell, which I noticed, Trev, you didn't list Sam Howell as a foundational piece.
I didn't.
A little bit of a surprise there.
There's not enough on tape to make him a foundation piece. Is he a piece that you want to keep and see what you have going forward? And then if that doesn't work out, keep him as a backup, then that's cool. But if you're talking about foundation, and I know I threw B-Rob in there, but it's not Sam Howell. I mean, he's been so inconsistent. Yeah, he's better than what has been here in a long time, I guess, so to speak.
Sure.
And it looks like he can run the offense, but at the same time, there's a lot of self-inflicted wounds. A lot of forcing throws, a lot of forcing too much, holding the ball. He's just not a foundational piece. So yeah, I did not include him in.
Sam Howell's in a predicament right now, and I talked a lot about that on Monday as well, where because it was just like I I've gotten kind of worrisome, Trev, with how people are like we joked about the Howlers and we you know, but the Colts growing strong, and it's like Sam Howell can't do any wrong. And it was like Sam Howell did not have a good game, and people were like, "Oh, it's the offense line, it's EB, it's all the." I was like, guys, he had a bad day. Like you got to be able to call it out. You got to be able to call it out. It's very similar to the Taylor Heineke crowd, which, by the way, they've gotten, I owe $1 for the jar, but they've gotten loud over the last few weeks as well. This offense would be better with Taylor Heineke. He's like, oh, Lord, here we are again. And this is what happens when you are 4-9 on the year is not a good one there.
Come out.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a rough one here. I'm trying to mark some of these comments here as they come in as far as who people think are rock steady there. But I agree with you. Terry McLaurin is. Brian Robinson is a solid running back. I think it was Off to Another World here who mentioned fitting in Saquon Barkley. And I don't know that you need to go out and find yourself a running back like Saquon Barkley. Right. Maybe they draft another one. Antonio Gibson is somebody I expect to sign elsewhere. Yeah. As much as I like Antonio Gibson, you're gonna find somebody like an Antonio Gibson, in the draft or as an undrafted free agent. Brian Robinson's on this roster. Chris Rodriguez is on this roster. You are going to need a pass catching. Although, as he mentioned, Brian Robinson kind of really coming into his own. We saw him as a power runner last season. This season, he's got 300 yards in the air. In fact, he actually has more receiving yards than Antonio Gibson. 4 more. So it's not a staggering difference, but I was shocked when I looked at that. I was like, I could not believe. And it's really on the back of just a couple of games, but that is something that has been kind of unlocked in Brian Robinson's game. So he's one I would agree with that one. Sam Howell, maybe not. We did have somebody who it was Tom here, Sam Cosme on the offensive line, a cornerstone. I will say this, a little tease here in the rest of the season, maybe kick him out to tackle again. See what he's got there because he's an athletic, offensive lineman. See what he can do. Yeah. I think that a lot of people did note that when he was drafted, he might slide inside in the NFL. He played tackle in college, but he might be more of an interior guy. He is a very athletic. He's good at what he does. He's, to me, our best offensive lineman. I know that's essentially picking like the best, worst thing in the world, but it is what it is. So it'd be interesting, I think, if they were to push him outside and see what they can do there. You saw Jerron Christensen. You shared it with us in our side chat. He's thriving. He's thriving outside of Washington. He didn't work out here because of injuries. Both seasons with us, he ended up with a knee injury, and so Washington let him go, and he's healed, and now he's doing good things outside of there. Yep. But it's I would agree Sam Cosme is one. Curtis Samuel has been dynamic. He's been excellent. He has been somebody who I think it's been exciting to see. I will say that when you're talking about him, how many rushing yards do you think he has on the season?
38.
20. Right? How many receiving yards does he have on the season?
172.
Oh, more than that. 508. And so Sam Howell's thrown for nearly 3,500 yards, and no one's sniffing 1,000 right now. But it's Curtis Samuel's impact seems to be greater than what his box stats say. And so it'd be nice to keep him around, but I just think that it's not going to happen, right? I think it's going to be, they're going to move on from him. Somebody's going to pay him more money than Washington can. And so I don't think you'll be able to keep him. Jonathan Allen on defense, absolutely. I wouldn't trade him. I don't think he asked to be traded. What he said was he does think about not being in Washington just because year after year it's the same thing over and over again, and it would wear on you. And people will tell him he's got to play better. Well, he's actually been playing pretty well this season. Deron Payne, I really wish they didn't re-sign him now. We were team pay the man during last season, but I think we all agreed at the end of the season, you let somebody else pay him. A little bit of a luxury there. Jamin Davis is one that I think might surprise a lot of people when I say that he can be a foundational piece.
Really?
He's
a tackling machine.
He's got so much speed. Did you see him on Jalen Waddle?
Yeah,
on Miami. But again, Miami, he stays with them. Granted, it's short yardage, and he just extends out. And he's able to knock that pass from Tua away. Excellent position. I think that he, with the right defensive coordinator, with somebody who's going to unlock that speed, he can be he could be a menace. He could be somebody good for Washington. Yeah. So he's somebody I would keep an eye on. Somebody who I've criminally underrated, Trev. You hate this person. I like the person, but Dominique throwing out Kendall Fuller.
No. He's been here this is second time around. No, it's time to go. I appreciate everything you've done. You had a couple of game-stealing interceptions in your career here, but most of your career here, you get burned, bro. I mean, I was completely done with Kendall Fuller when Isaiah Hodgins looked him in his eye, did a Kendall Fuller fell, and the Giants score. I'm done. I appreciate the service. You were great while you were here, but it's time to be elite. We got the elite in the front office that's matched on the field, and he don't match elite or foundation. So sorry.
I like Kendall Fuller. I don't think he's a free agent. I'd have to double check that one. So if Washington has him for another year, you keep him for another year, in my opinion. Lockdown Law says we're stuck with Allen and Payne because no one is paying them in a trade. Jonathan Allen, I think someone would, because his deal isn't really all that bad for a defensive tackle playing at the level he is playing. Deron Payne, I think you'd have a harder time justifying just because it's a newer contract and his play hasn't necessarily solidified himself as one of the top defensive tackles. He had an amazing season last year, but what are you going to get? What are you going to get out of him? That's going to be the question there.
Yeah.
Gus going with McLaurin, Payne, Allen, Dotson, ineffective as he is. That's it. We love B-Rob, but running backs are a dime a dozen. He doesn't fit every offense. That's fair on B-Rob. I think that's fair on B-Rob. Again, running backs are a dime a dozen, as Gus is saying. Dotson was somebody you didn't list either in your section, Trev. Why is Dotson not a foundational player to you, but it is to someone like Gus?
I can't speak for Gus, but for me, it's not, because I think slot receivers are a dime a dozen too. You can get one of those in the draft. You can get one of those, a better one in free agency. I mean, he's a nice receiver, but he's inconsistent. It's just time to correct all these mistakes so we don't have to take a chance on that happening again. Maybe he'll have a better year. No, we need somebody that we know is going to come in there and handle business. So love Jahan Dotson. I'm not speaking any hate against him. He's a great player, but he's not foundational to me.
I absolutely think that we're down on Jahan Dotson this season because he's having a down year. I think that if you look back at last season, you saw the promise of the rookie, and you saw, especially, he started off very strong, and then he gets injured. He comes back and he still plays very well for a rookie. And so you're like, okay, he's going to blossom. All we heard about this offseason, Trev, was just how much he's been putting in the work, and he's working with Sam, and he's doing all this, and we all
he could be wide receiver one.
We all fell for it.
I know.
And and he has such a letdown that we end up, now we're thinking maybe he's not a foundational, but I do think that he's a good wide receiver. And I think that it's going to be better for him next season. This season is a little bit of a wash. It is going to be a little bit better. First string in the house. We appreciate Toothpick in the game coming over here and joining us here. Moving along, Dominique picking another one for us. Logan Thomas, maybe, Dominique says. Where do you stand on Logan Thomas as a potential foundational piece moving forward for the Washington Commanders?
I mean, yeah, for locker room, maybe, and certainly as a depth piece. I don't think he should be tight end 1 going into next season if we're going to keep him. I think you should go get a veteran at that spot or somebody way better. But yeah, if we're talking about foundation, Logan Thomas, yeah, because he's been here. He's battled through some significant injuries, but he's caught a couple of crucial third downs for us and kept it. He's tough, man. That's a tough one. If it's talking about foundation only for locker room purposes and, veteran presence, yes. If you have to keep someone else on offense, yes. But if you don't have to, if you have a choice, nah, he can go. Appreciate
he's out. He's out. I don't need him for the locker room presence. That's why I'm keeping Terry McLaurin. That's why I'm keeping Jonathan Allen. I can't wait, man. You know how I feel about Logan Thomas. The guy is he's a great guy. We've had him on the channel. He is an okay tight end. People love him, and people like we have Roger on here. He's talking about how we overvalue bums and Jags. We have one above average player, which I have said, Roger. I've said the only blue chip player on this team right now is Jonathan Allen. Okay. That I've said that multiple times. All right. People value Logan Thomas as if he is Travis Kelce, as if he's Kittle, as if he's TJ Hawkinson, as if Dallas Goedert. I can go on and on and on.
Irv Smith.
He's not Mark Andrews. Okay. He's not even he is like year 10. What's the dude out of New Orleans? Jimmy Graham. He's year 10 Jimmy Graham, okay? Not year 5, blowing up the league with Drew Brees. He's Logan Thomas, folks. Like people really do love themselves some Logan Thomas, and it's just like he has 424 yards on the season, which is not bad for a tight end.
Keep him.
But he can go ahead and go off. And by the way, not a Curtis Hodges guy. That guy hasn't even seen the field yet. I'm not a
John Bates.
I like John Bates. I think John Bates is a fine player. I think John Bates might be our best overall tight end, just because his blocking is better than Logan Thomas. Okay. He's not as good as a catcher as Logan Thomas, but he might just be a better overall tight end. Why am I spacing on our 5th rounder? Because he never sees Cole Turner. Cole Turner never sees the field. We were so excited last year about Cole Turner. You remember that? And then nada.
That's all right. He can go too.
And then nada. So yeah, that is rough. Lots of players to turn around and maybe see next year. How about let's talk about the rest of the season when we come back? That's what we're going to do. We're going to plan out the rest of the season. And spoiler alert, somebody's already picked them to go to the playoffs. Welcome back here to the game. And yes, we're going to be talking about how to finish the season. And by far, my favorite response that we got in this was from Maddox on Twitter. Says, how about we plan out the rest of the season is get our heads right during the bye and prepare to beat San Francisco in the wild card round. Hoo-yah, says Maddox, who has us in as the 6th seed, not the 7th, but the 6th to go up against San Francisco. Love it. Absolutely love it, Trav. You play to win the game. Of course, we can also go in a different way. Playoffs? Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Washington still technically in the hunt for
Yeah.
the playoffs there, and things you never know. Chip in a chair, chip in a chair. But
All it takes.
realistically speaking, Washington's season is going to be done. You have Ron Rivera going to play out his last 4 games. I thought about putting him in a true or false situation where whether or not he was going to get fired. But if you didn't fire him going into the bye week, you're not firing
Yeah.
him, right? If you didn't fire
Mhm.
him after Thanksgiving, you're not firing him. Like,
Yeah.
so it is going to be the Ron Rivera show for these next 4 games. And it's going to be up to them to keep this team competitive. Washington, not favored in any of the remaining 4 games. They have
Not even against the Jets.
not even against the Jets. They've got the Rams. They've got the Jets. They've got Dallas in week 18, and they got San Francisco as well, the Chase Young revenge game. And they're just, Trev, they're just not a good team. Zach Wilson's going to come out here against this Washington defense and look like Joe Namath. Okay. It's going to be bad, but we need to take what positives we can from this and see what we can do as far as with this team. Jonathan Allen out here talking about how every one of his teammates have to figure out what are they playing for?
Yep.
Pride, next paycheck. What is it that these players are going to be playing for? Because right now, all of them are auditioning for either the next coach or their next job.
Yeah.
So how should Ron Rivera and company set this team up for success the rest of the season, Trev?
Got to go 4-0 rest of the season. This is Ron's farewell tour. It starts now with 4 games left, pretty much. We've known Ron Rivera as much as we all are ready to move on. He's never been the coach to give up. He'll do whatever it takes to put a team on the field and compete, whether it's Garrett Gilbert as a COVID quarterback. This man will fight cancer and coach at the same time just to make sure his team does what they need to do. So, all in all, just continue what you've been doing, setting the culture right, demanding competitiveness from the team, and try and go 4-0 these last 4 weeks. Just for pride, for if this is your last coaching stop, which it might be as a head coach for real, you want to end with on a high note. Hey, you won your last 4 games, or you went 2-2 your last 4, or 3-1, something like that. Just don't give up, and just pass that message on to the locker room too. And it seems like we got a lot of guys in there, according to John Allen and Tim McLaurin, that it's not. There's no quit in that locker room, but we all know at the end of the day, we're human beings. Some people, the season's over, they're ready to move on. But as far as what Ron needs to do, just keep going what you're doing and just finish your farewell tour out with a bang as best as you can.
Yeah. So, before I piggyback on that, we do have Stoner checking in from Minneapolis St. Paul Airport. Can't wait to get back to the DMV tonight. Safe travels, Stoner. We appreciate checking in and can't wait to have you back. Gus there tagging onto that comment about finishing out in Ron's farewell season says Ron doesn't deserve a career winning record. And so if you heard me typing or you saw me typing, if you're watching this on YouTube, his regular season record is 102 wins, 99 losses.
Oh, so no.
4 losses will put him at 102, 103, and also, by the way, 2 ties in there. And he's 3-5 in the postseason as well. So he will end up more than likely with a losing record as far as that's going to go there. And so it is going to be interesting, this Ron Rivera farewell tour, because he has probably or is probably going to get the mandate like, hey, we need to see certain players. Gus here sitting Fuller, Samuel, Gibson, letting some of these other ones come out there to try some of that. And some of that is going to be interesting because part of this season we all knew was going to be Sam's development. Brandon earlier saying, I think Sam's development is hindered by bad coaching and a philosophy that are checking a block, not building a long-standing team. And now I think we're going to get more of that. It's going to be hard, I think, to evaluate players the rest of the season because, again, you're not favored in these next 4 games. You're going to be putting players out there likely that are green, that are not, your vet players that are going to give it their all, Trev, but because they don't have the experience or they are bottom of the roster type guys, it's going to be, I think, harder to evaluate, kind of in the sense that it's hard to evaluate players because of the certain coaching off to another world. Amazing how EB is at fault after 12 games and no players.
Yeah.
Right, we're talking about it. EB's got his fair share of problems, and the players do. And that was one of the things I was talking about earlier, Trev, was some of these players just aren't good. And when they have bad games, they have bad games. It's not because of other factors. It's just that they're bad. But that's what we need to see for the rest of this season. So what players are you wanting to see more of? Terrell Burgess, the special teams Pro Bowler, maybe for Washington, maybe allowing him to be a safety back there, or you want to continue, seeing more of Cam Curl and Percy Butler? What is it? Who is it that you want to see more of?
Well, if Cam Curl is looking for an extension, you got to keep him out there the last 4 games, or else he probably might be gone too. So I'd like to see what he's got to give to see if he deserves an extension here or not, or if we'll be okay without him. Give me Chris Rodriguez. B-Rob has a hammy problem. You can't mess with those, so he might be done for the season. I shut him down right now since he already has a hamstring. Yeah, Jabril Cox, that's one. I mean, he's a special teamer right now, but I mean, is he really worth putting on the field to play actual defensive snaps, or is he still just worth being special teams? I think if he was worth putting on the field for defensive snaps, he would have been on there already. Because, like I said, we've already seen some KJ Henry and Andre Jones, even though they're defensive end different position, but we've already started to see some depth go there. Terrell Burgess, sure, I guess. I mean, there's really not a lot of people that are depth pieces that I'm excited to see because they really aren't that great, even as depth pieces. Like the Tariq Castro Fields and the Curtis Hodgeses and Terrell Burgesses. And, it's like, I really don't care what they have to show for the last 4 games because they're not going to be here after this season. They're only like the players that are on the inactive list for 12 games out of the season. I don't really want to see in the last 4 games. I don't want to evaluate. They've had 12 chances to prove something in practice and in games, and they haven't. So, and that's pretty much what we have in our squad. I mean, our squad is so bad. They're practice squad players, like you said, up there. So, Chris Rodriguez and
I think people are going to be surprised. I think people are going to be surprised when a new coach comes in and this is a competitive roster. His first string coming on here, pick again. Thanks for watching with us here. Is saying, wait, I have a question. Did you watch Hard Knocks? Coaching is the difference. Ron can't coach, and he's not wrong here. Okay, this is. I'm not going to say that other players like Roger was, said it earlier, right? There's one good player on this team. The rest are a bunch of replacement players, and that's not necessarily wrong, but most rosters are filled with replacement players. And then certain players on this team might look like Jags under Ron Rivera, but when they get a new coach, they could shine. Maybe next season we get an offensive-minded coach that all of a sudden Jahan Dotson is looking like he's a top 10 wide receiver. Maybe I'm not going to talk about the draft because the draft is so far away, but that coach could potentially bring in maybe somebody who improves this team. And now all of a sudden a role player on this team is looking like they could just be a star player. A lot can change. And so while I do agree that there is some, maybe not enough star power as Jet Painter, thanks for joining us as well, saying that we need like a Chet SGA combo, bring in our Oklahoma City Thunder, here, and then the Commanders will then win. But it is, you bring in one or two pieces, as long as they're the right pieces, this team could make a 180. And I know that's a little bit of burgundy and gold glasses when it comes to that, but I think that it's very true. Is once you sit there and you change the coaching, this roster, I think, will be a lot better. Omar with Pringle's gonna surprise us. I don't think so. I think Pringle is going to find himself even further down the roster, and Pringle's not going to be on this roster next season. That was an Eric Bieniemy signing, and I don't know that Eric Bieniemy's going to be here next year. So there is a lot of things that can change here. And so when it comes to finishing the season, and what I want to see from Washington is maybe we do see Curtis Hodges more. Maybe we see Cole Turner more. I don't want to necessarily completely flip the switch and all of a sudden we're only starting the young guys, because these games need to be competitive. The players, like I said, if all of a sudden you're putting in, I think I've seen somebody said, put in Mason Brooks and see what he can do. It's just like, okay, we're getting a little far ahead of ourselves now. All right. That is my guy. It is my guy. But it's just like, if you're completely going to change everything that way and you're putting in your C tier guys, you're not going to be able to evaluate those foundational pieces that we talked about in the warm up. It's just not possible, because that's not a team that's going to be competitive. And Washington might not be competitive in these games anyways. I don't know if you saw the Puka catch from the Rams where he was like 70-yard bomb, like he was out of the, just ran by everybody. That's going to happen here against the Washington starters. Could you imagine if it's Danny Johnson out there? We put Quan Martin against Tyreek Hill one-on-one, Trev.
First of all, we drafted Quan Martin.
Quan Martin's going to be a good player. He's another one I think that's going to surprise people next year.
I don't know, that Miami Dolphins game, like whatever. That was just,
it's behind us. We knew we were going to lose. I just wish it wasn't that bad. So what can, because you brought it up, that game was bad. That was not a good loss. Most fans want to see Sam Howell develop. Okay.
Yeah.
Most fans want to see losses. I'm not going to put most fans. I'm going to put, there's a number of fans that want to see a loss, but want it to be a competitive loss. They want to lose on a last second field goal. They want to lose on a game winning drive. They want to lose, which isn't going to happen with this team, but that's what they want, because they want to keep that top 5 pick.
Oh, God.
But they want their team to at least be exciting. I don't subscribe to that. I want W's.
Thank you.
I want wins. I want to beat the Rams. I want to beat the Jets. I don't care if it drops us to the 7th overall pick. Okay.
Thank you.
The Jets. Beat Dallas in week 18. That's what I want to see. And for that to happen, you have to still put out a roster that's competitive. I mentioned in the warm-up, I kind of teased a little bit. Throw Wiley's done. I get that he's got a contract that you're likely going to keep him around, but put Sam Cosmi back at right tackle. He played right tackle on and off last season,
and it wasn't bad.
And he wasn't bad. He played it his rookie year, and he was actually, we all were talking about how we have a right tackle of our future, maybe even swing him out the left tackle.
Nah, put him inside.
And then he gets put inside. He is a good offensive player, offensive lineman. He's definitely the best offensive lineman we have. Again, not a high bar to cross, but he's somebody I think that we need to see some. Yeah, TJ, there's a good way to put it there. Lose in dignity. 45-15 at home ain't losing in dignity. That is not a good thing here. Gus, with the number of Howell backers decreases with every week of poor offensive play. And it's true. I mean, he's lost me a little bit. I still believe Sam Howell has shown that he has tools to be successful in the NFL. But the problem I'm having right now with Sam Howell, Trev, is the fact that he's had a bad 3-game stretch.
Yeah.
And that 3-game stretch is coming at a time where it's evaluation mode. And he needs to show the next staff that he has it. If he plays like he did against Philadelphia every day, every time he shows up, then they're going to be like, okay, this is a guy, even with the losses, this is a guy that we're going to be building around. But if he plays like he did against Miami, which he had an amazing run,
right?
But there was no maybe one or two quality passes, right? If he plays like he did against Dallas on Thanksgiving, and if you're a new GM
drafting a quarterback,
and you have a top 5 pick, you're telling me he's going to look at that Thanksgiving game and be like, yeah, this is the guy I'm going to build around, or he's going to pick the exciting college player. Yes, the offensive line is bad. Yes, the offensive line needs to be addressed. You also have 4 more picks in the top 100 likely at that point. So you have picks to be able to address that. And you have some players on this roster. Maybe you can develop into talent. Maybe you bring in an offensive minded coach with an offensive coordinator that can scheme to make this offensive line as good as its PFF scores, as good as its ESPN scores, because their pass blocking grades are good even on there. You know, you can continue to change things. But Sam Howell's not doing enough. And so that's one of the things I think they should focus on. So how, Trev, can they make Sam Howell successful to the point where the people coming in say Sam Howell is our guy?
Maybe our staff should go back and watch some of his college tapes and just let him play his game. I guess Ron taking over the defense, they said he was going to simplify things, and maybe they should do that for Sam Howell these last 4 games. Stop making everything so complicated. You had, 12, 13 chances to see if he can handle a complex offense. And it seems like he can for the most part. But now let's just see if he can just go out there and play football. We're pretty much out of playoff contention. These last 4 games should actually be your audition to see if you're going to stay here and be QB1 or stay here and be QB2 and have quarterback competition with somebody else they bring in here. Because you do have talent. We're not just discounting you right now because this is essentially your rookie year, pretty much. So yeah, simplify things. Let the game come to him. Stop trying to let him find the game. Let him find his own rhythm. Stop trying to force a rhythm for him to get into, and just let him go out there and ball. Nothing to lose, just go out there and ball.
That's one of the common threads with it, right? Is stop thinking and start playing. And I think that's been one of the things that has led Sam Howell to get sacked 58 times. He's nearly at the record, 18 sacks away from the record at this point. And a lot of it is because he's just having to think, and the play designs are 5-7 step drops, long developing pass plays. We have seen it.
I'm sorry.
No,
but
go ahead,
that Van Ginkel interception last week. I know it's on Wiley. I know everyone's saying Wiley, but it was so robotic and programmed that anybody could have jumped that and got an interception. Like, it wasn't, I know offensive line, but it was literally just a snap, turn, look. It was so programmed and robotic, anybody could have done that. And that's what I mean. Just let Sam play. Like, it's not automatically going to be there just because it is in practice. And that's what it looked like in the game. He was like, it's going to be there. No, it's not, because it's a real, so.
Yeah. For the record, not really on Wiley there, as far as like his assignment wasn't going to be to block or do anything. A lot of people are like, he's supposed to like take out the knees, and that actually wasn't how Wiley was supposed to do. What Wiley did wrong, however, in that was he should have identified, hey, this linebacker's like 5 yards off of me, and so I'm not going to be able to touch him. So maybe we need to do something different. Because Sam Howell talked about that particular play, and he was like, there was no thinking to it. It was literally, I'm going to take the ball and I'm immediately whipping out there. And that's what they did. And so Sam Howell didn't even recognize, which by the way was a problem for me.
Yes.
He's like, I didn't even see him. The guy is, Van Ginkel's not a small dude. Okay.
He got the locks in the wind and everything.
Yeah. Not a small dude. How did you not recognize that he was out there? Maybe not throwing that right away was the smart decision. So, but it wasn't. Some things learn from your coach, Sam. Some things are better left unsaid. Stop opening your mouth. Yeah, Trev here for our audio listeners doing the zip motion across his lips there, because that was one. It was just like, Sam, you can't just tell us outright you did not identify the defense. Okay, that is not helping your cause here in the last 4 weeks of the season. Here it is the bye week, and because we have no game to preview, we do have a fun session of true or false coming up here in the cool down. I've got a series of scenarios for you. You've got to tell me whether or not they're true or false. That's all coming up here in the cool down. Welcome back to the cool down, and continuing on the Van Geekel Locked on Law here. We got owned by a dude named Van Geekel. Yeah, that guy, by the way, not a starter for Miami either.
No,
that's he was put into action because the starter got injured, blew out his Achilles the game before, and here we are getting the backup. That's like having Casey Hill, like absolutely own you. Casey 2 sacks.
He ain't done nothing since them 2 sacks. But
it is Van Ginkel, yes, it is. But it is crazy to see somebody like that dominate Washington. That's how you know the season's not going your way here. Let's get to this true or false here, and I kind of slided you a little bit, Trev, and I didn't create a whole bunch of graphics like I did with a this or that this time. So it's just going to be verbal here for people. Our audio listeners will appreciate that, so they're not missing out if they're not catching this on YouTube live with us here, as we do stream live every Wednesday at 7:30. We appreciate all those joining in here with us. So feel free to get in the comment section to answer these yourself here. True or false? Terry McLaurin gets his 1,000 yards receiving this season. He would need to average 76.5 yards a game.
False.
He's had three seasons in a row with 1,000 yards. His rookie season just shy of 1,000. And this year here, we got Gregory with a false, Locked on Law with a false. And I thought he was going to get 1,000 prior to the Miami game. Putting up a goose egg against Miami tells me he's not going to get it. 70. And I still thought maybe he might, Trav. I thought maybe he might get there. But then I wrote it out and I was just like, oh, he needs 76.5 yards a game. He ain't getting it. He would need, like, as Locked on Law here mentioning, Sauce Gardner is going to be one of the cornerbacks he has to go up against. He might have another goose egg on that one. So it is, he's going to end up short on that one, I think, as well. So false for me. How about this? Brian Robinson gets 1,250 yards from scrimmage this season. He only needs 65 yards a game for that. He's at 990 yards from scrimmage. You can't say depending. I need a true or false.
False. I'll go false on that one too.
False, largely because that injury, right? And that's the thing, is I didn't know where to put this one, Trav, because one, I didn't realize that he was so close to 1,000 yards from scrimmage. He's at 990 right now. And I was just like, so where do I put this? I was like, do I put it at 1,400? It's like, oh, that's 400. That's 400. That's 100 yards a game. He ain't doing that. But I was just like, maybe 1,250, because it's 260 yards. But it was just kind of like, he's got this hamstring injury. And I was like, I don't know. Gregory giving us a false on that one. Dominique thinking true. If he heals up, if this hamstring heals during the bye week, would you put true for that, Trev?
San Fran, Rams, Jets, Dallas. Yeah, I'd say true.
Yeah, it's going to be close. I think if he's healthy, it's going to be close. I just have to agree with your first sentiment. That hamstring injury, probably just going to sidelight him and see a little bit more Chris Rodriguez the rest of the season. So I'm going to go with false on that one as well. How about this one? This one I thought was pretty spicy here. Jahan Dotson passes Curtis Samuel as wide receiver 2, only 50 yards behind Curtis Samuel. 4 games to go.
I'll say true.
True.
I haven't had a true yet. I'll throw a true in there for that one.
Gregory
True.
is pressing F for his condolences here. Locked on law false. And we'll see if anyone else answers there. But yeah, it was one I told you earlier when it came to Curtis Samuel. I was surprised because he does seem to have a bigger impact on this offense than any of the wide receivers.
Yeah, you're right.
But he was so low on yardage total. I thought that was strange. Dominique saying false as well. And so to find that Dotson, who we said is having a bad year, who had a goose egg himself, is only 50 yards behind Curtis. I was just like, I think it's possible. And not only do I think it's possible, but I think it's going to happen. It's going to be a tight race, Trev.
Yeah.
I think that Curtis Samuel is still going to get featured more, but I think that there's games where Jahan Dotson is going to have bigger numbers. Jahan Dotson, one of a few players this season to hit that century mark in a game. And so I think that he has the makings of surprising us and ending up with that wide receiver 2 role, even though some of us predicted foolishly that he'd be wide receiver 1. Randy going with false as well.
Foolishly.
All right. How about this? Sam Howell does not break the sack record. True or false? He's 18 sacks away. That means 4.5 sacks a game is all he needs to hit to break that record. Well, that's a tie technically. So he'd need more than 4.5 sacks. In the last 3 games, he has not been good. Okay. He has not been good. 11 sacks in the last 3 games. So very close to 4 sacks a game there.
And we're going up against San Francisco's defensive front, the Jets,
Dallas against
Dallas again, and
you got Donald. Yeah, Aaron Donald.
Yeah, he breaking it. He's breaking it.
Aaron Donald against Tyler Larson against Chris Paul. Like it's gonna be,
he's breaking the sack record.
It's gonna be a tight. This is gonna be another one there. Locked on Law saying false that Sam Howell will break the record. Nathan going with false as well. Dominique saying it's true, and Roger saying it's true. Randy saying it's false. Dallas and Gregory agreeing with you. Dallas, San Fran, Jets. Yeah, and Aaron Donald. Yeah, I thought, especially there was that good period with this offensive line where he was only sacked like 2 or 3 times a game, that he wasn't going to get there. And then this last few games, 11 sacks in 3 games really isn't horrendous. It's not great, but it's not horrendous. But now that you're looking at all that, he's going to end up tying or breaking that record if he stays upright. Absolutely. For sure. Staying a little bit with this season, we had mentioned that there were some Pro Bowl votes happening. Terrell Burgess, number 1 in special teams. I don't know that half of the Washington Commander fan base was even realize Terrell Burgess was a player on this team, let alone coming there. Of course, last season, All-Pro Revo, Jeremy Reeves, not just getting the Pro Bowl special team spot, but also getting the All-Pro NFLPA spot. And now we get Terrell Burgess in that section. There must be something with the special teams gunner type player. Not even a gunner. I think he's mainly the guy, the upright behind there.
Yeah.
Calling the shots. But Terrell Burgess, special teams, first in special teams. Cam Curl, the 4th strong safety.
Okay.
And Antonio Gibson as a returner listed as 7th, Jonathan Allen, the 8th defensive tackle, and Sam Howell, the 10th QB. He's the 5th NFC QB. So true or false? Knowing this information.
Yes.
Okay. True or false? Washington will have at least 2 Pro Bowl players.
False.
False. Not even going to sneak anybody in.
Nah, Terrell Burgess is going to be in there because he's first right now.
It's gonna be hard to beat him at this point because who's voting special teams? Like
Yeah,
Terrell
exactly.
Burgess and his family are voting on special teams right now. No one's going. No one is going with the true on that one. There we go, Nathan. Thank you for this one. Sympathetically true. Dominique, true. I actually do think it's going to be true. I do think that Terrell Burgess is going to get in there just because, again, it's special teams and who's voting against him. Like, who is there anybody that cares about special teams as much as Washington fans do? That's going to sneak him in there. But I also think that you're going to see one of the other players sneak into the Pro Bowl as an alternate, as injuries happen, as like players step out of it because of their teams in the playoffs type deal and whatnot. So I do think Washington sneaks a second one in there. And as Dominique mentions here, Jonathan Allen is popular enough to also get there as well. All right, let's move on to next season in the true or false era here. Cam Curl will resign with Washington. True or false?
Here you go.
Picking false, Trev? Man,
false.
If Stoner is still watching us in the
airport,
he is crying right now. He is
false, Stoner. False.
This is going to be a tough one just because I think Washington has drafted back-to-back safeties. Derek Forrest is also somebody who's younger. He's only going to be coming into his third season here in Washington. So Cam Curl is an absolute quality safety in this league, but he's also not somebody who is a turnover machine. So he's not going to get a lot of accolades. So what are you signing here? Right. And as Gregory mentioned, it's a lot of money. It's too much money here. Randy, William, Roger, and Dominique all going with the false as well. And Dominique going with the true. Dominique, you are so positive. Thank you for being so positive here. But I don't know that they're going to pay money for Cam Curl when as important as he has been to this defense and as good of a player as he is, because he doesn't do the explosive plays. Mm-hmm. That's why I don't think that he's going to end up being signed here in Washington. Nope. It's a shame. He's a good player and you need good players, but you can't pay the level of money he's going to get because you can't sign him to a cheap deal. That's not how signing players works, right? He's going to get a second contract and he's played well enough to get paid top 10 safety money, because that's how it works. Is if you're getting a new contract, you get to set the new market.
Right.
The salary cap's gone up. So he's going to get paid top 10, top 20 safety money, but he doesn't have the safety stats. Is where it's going to be a problem. And this is patently untrue, PCC. Cam Curl hasn't made an impact play since 2021. I will say he has not made, if you mean by impact play, he hasn't had like an interception or a fumble recovery or something like that. Absolutely. But he's just a solid player. And sometimes you need those, but I just do think that he does not resign here. Jonathan Allen will remain with the Washington Commanders next season. True or false, Trev?
Oh my gosh. True.
Yeah, it's true. They're not. He
ain't going nowhere. One more year.
It reminds me of before Deron Payne was re-signed here. That Deron Payne was always the one who was just like listed as like trade Deron Payne, get a first for Deron Payne. No one was paying a first for Deron Payne, for the record. But Jonathan Allen is going to be that. We're only going to hear about it all the way up to the draft, where people are going to be like, well, you trade Jonathan Allen. This is the time where Washington should trade and get another second or get a late first. And I think that is the sexy thing to do, because you're like, he's mad at the team. He's talking about being with another team. People are like, well, then get rid of his bum, behind and all this other stuff. But Jonathan Allen is, again, the lone quality player Washington has. I don't see a new GM going, okay, we're going to get rid of him. Jonathan Allen will keep that same energy, to use his slogan from last year. He will keep that same energy next season with a new coach, with a new regime and stuff. And he's going to be more excited to play for Washington as well. So Roger going to go with false, thinking that JA will get dealt. Dominique staying positive. Randy thinking a trade would be good. Of course, Randy earlier said Randy wants a pure house cleaning. A lot of people on the house cleaning side of that one. Gregory wanting a trade. Locked on Law, I'd take a high first for Allen. If you're going to get rid of Jonathan Allen, it's got to be a first rounder. I don't see, but I agree with Roger. I don't think you're going to get a first rounder for Jonathan Allen.
A high second, probably.
He doesn't have the sack total to warrant it, right? If he got double digit sacks like Daron Payne did, then you can get a first one. But he, as much double teams and triple teams as he eats up and everything, and how he's still productive player and everything, he's just not going to get you a first. He probably would fetch you a third if you're lucky. But I do agree with Nathan that Jonathan Allen is a pillar here in Washington. And Roger, I patently disagree with this. Payne is not our best player. Moving along here, Eric Bieniemy will be an offensive coordinator in 2024.
True, yep, right here in Washington. True.
You think he's going to stay here in Washington?
Yeah.
Wild. You're going to have to expand on that one. We can't just sit there and be like, true, next on this one. Eric Bieniemy will be an offensive coordinator. Trev saying true and doubling down by saying it's going to be here in Washington.
I mean, if we keep Sam as QB1, okay, we're going to bring somebody in here who doesn't have a clue who Sam Howell is outside of film. It's going to be another year of learning another offensive system for Sam Howell, which could either help him progress as a quarterback or regress as a quarterback. You asked EB to come in here and be offensive coordinator and run an offense to perfection with a quarterback he's never met until his press conference. And we're sitting here saying EB's trash. Yeah, it looks like it so far, but he did come from Super Bowl Kansas City, where Pat Mahomes was sitting behind Alex Smith first, and then he came up aboard. And EB and Pat Mahomes had some continuity, aka years together, to get these playoff appearances, these Super Bowl appearances. So I wouldn't write off EB just yet. Yeah, there's a rumor out he's getting interest from other franchises, but I think
Justina Anderson.
Yeah.
The Bears are expected to have some interest in Eric Bieniemy.
And then Jason Wright putting on the 2024 outlook letter out to the fans, whatever, saying Sam Howell, because of his arm, his hard work, his ethic, looking forward to leading the 2024 season. I mean, he might not be here either, Jason Wright, but if he's already endorsing that, as of right now, it seems to be that Sam Howell's QB1 next year. As of right now, you keep EB. Keep him in the OC role, get a better head coach. This is one more shot. One shot. I mean, we gave Scott Turner chances. We gave whoever else chances. We gave all these people chances, but EB comes in 1 year and we're ready to get rid of him already. We gave Ron 4 years. Like, I think EB deserves at least one more go with Sam Howell as his quarterback. Let EB have an entire offseason building an offense rather than waiting to see if he has a job. Then he gets a job. Now he has to scramble and find players to help run an offense.
He was signed really early on, so I don't know that he was waiting for a job.
You know
I don't know that I buy that one. He won a Super Bowl ring, and like the next week he was here in Washington. So, not sure if it's my internet or Trev's that got frozen there. So I'm going to assume it's Trev because I'm still moving. Maybe we'll see if that's the case here as things get a little dicey sometimes with this Oklahoma internet. So unless I see a comment saying one of us is frozen, I'm just going to be continuing on here with some of the talk. Locked on Law, Howell's not earned another year. Commandees is saying we're going to end up with an offensive head coach. Dominique thinking false on the Eric Bieniemy side of things. Eric Bieniemy is going to be gone. Gregory thinking he's going to end up being a head coach. And Randy saying false as well on that side. So it's, I think that so thanks, Ant, for letting me know there that Trev was the one that was frozen. That's, I appreciate that. Sometimes things get a little dicey here when you do a live show, and we'll wait for Trev to come back. But until then, we'll continue the show as far as things are concerned. Eric Bieniemy as an offensive coordinator, I do not agree with Trev. Maybe he was frozen off because that was a bad take, in my opinion. I do not see Eric Bieniemy being here with Washington. I always thought that this was going to be a one-year rental with Eric Bieniemy. I realized that he signed on for another year, but he is somebody who I thought was either going to do well enough that he was going to earn a head coaching job, or find himself elsewhere, or he was going to be what we are right now, which is not great. I mean, if you look at his offense, we are better than we were last year under Scott Turner, but you're still in the bottom half of the league. And I don't think that Washington's going to stick with him. And I do not think it's going to be enough that Sam Howell may or may not be the guy that you keep Eric Bieniemy. And I've said this before a couple of times. If Sam Howell is the guy, if Sam Howell is QB1, then it doesn't matter who the coordinator is. You're going to be fine with a new head coach and a new stream here as we welcome back Trev to the channel. You had me tripping for a moment, Trev, because you went off and I was just like, whoa, I'm not sure if it's you or me. But essentially, Trev, what came down to is I disagree. I don't think he's going to be an offensive coordinator here at Washington. I don't think he's going to be a head coach here at Washington. His offense is still bottom half of the league. So an improvement over last year, not good enough. And if Sam Howell's QB1, you build around him. You don't need to worry about who the head coach is. He'll be just fine. But that brings me to my next one, Trev. Sam Howell will be QB1 in 2024. True or false?
Oh, man. I'm going to go ahead and say false just because we're cleaning house in the front office. And, if it's not their guy, why would they carry another poor man's trash, so to speak? Not saying he's trash. I'm just saying a saying for the.
Sure. You had mentioned Jason Wright's comments. I want to read those for people here. So Jason Wright, in his letter out there, as they're raising ticket prices, says, on the football front, we recognize we've had challenges on the field this season. We can't and won't shy away from that. But there are many reasons for continued optimism. Led by an ownership group that has set a vision for building a team that can win sustainably over the long term, we are in an enviable position with quality draft capital, 5 picks in the top 100, as well as ample salary cap space to add to this team. Plus, Sam Howell continues to develop and impress thanks to a tremendous arm, incredible work ethic, and undeniable toughness. For these reasons, we believe the future is very bright for the Washington Commanders. That's Jason Wright's comments on the team. It sounds like they want to build around Sam Howell.
Sounds like they want to keep Jason Wright too.
Let's not get carried away. That's him doing his job. Notice in that comment section, by the way, it does not mention anything about Eric Bieniemy. It does not mention anything about Ron Rivera. So it's very clear, I think, that's going to happen. Gregory not believing it. Locked on Law has been very adamant about this being false. Dominique staying true to his word and saying true. Nathan, remember the new regime took over in August. Think major adjustments will happen quickly, unlike the previous years. And I think we'll know very quickly whether or not the next coach is going to believe, the next GM is going to be there.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that I kind of like with this, Trev. I mentioned the closer Washington gets that first overall pick, the more realistic it's going to be that Washington's going to look at a QB. We know that. Some fans might not want to admit that, but it's true. And the rest of the league will see that as well. And so the rest of the league will have to sit there and wonder, okay, if Washington is in the market for a QB, if they want to switch off of Sam Howell, maybe we need to move up ahead of them to take our QB. So that way Washington doesn't take him. That's great for Washington because if Washington ends up wanting to back Sam Howell, that means you're going to get one of the offensive tackles. Or my next true or false, Washington drafts Marvin Harrison Jr. True or false? They pull a Cincinnati, Trev. Everyone thinks Cincinnati.
Do it. True. New regime's going. They love flashiness. They love explosive plays. Do it. It's time.
It's going to be interesting because, like I mentioned, whether or not Sam Howell's the QB, you're going to go into this draft and people aren't going to know what you're doing. They're going to be like, are they building around this guy? You know, they've said it, but maybe, I mean, it's going to be, if they're picking 4th overall, there's going to be a lot of options. If people move ahead of them to take QBs, that leaves you with a really the pick of the litter, and you're going to be pretty happy with whoever you get. And then they pull a Cincinnati? Do they go? Everyone thought Cincinnati after the Joe Burrow pick was going to pick an offensive tackle. He needed it. He got injured. He's just, he's been running for his life his rookie year. They've got to pick an offensive tackle here, and they pick the offensive playmaker, Jamar Chase. Then they go to the Super Bowl, and it proved true, by the way, as Jamar Chase helped them get to the Super Bowl. But then Jamar Chase was running free down the sidelines, and in the Super Bowl was running free down the sidelines, but you couldn't see him because you're on your backside. So Joe Burrow couldn't see him because he didn't have a tackle blocking. I do think he was tackled from either sacked from Aaron Donald or the left side. So it wasn't the left tackle, but it is going to be. It is going to be there. Roger will lose the pick. Dominique, I prefer a lineman. Ant with the false there. Command D's with a offensive tackle. Gregory going with a fire. Give me Harrison, baby. I think it's going to be interesting. Washington's got a long way to go, though, when it comes to getting to the draft. It's going to be an exciting offseason. We still got 4 games to get there, though. It is bye week, so you won't have a Daily Commanders update tomorrow or Friday. No game preview, no game play-by-play this weekend. We'll be back on Monday. Of course, we stream live every Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern, and then we will have the Rams play-by-play for you. So you'll want to make sure that you stay tuned in for that. It has been a great 150th episode here on Ref the District. We appreciate everybody jumping in with us here on the live. If you're catching this on the audio platforms, make sure you leave us a rating and review. It helps other people find us. We're presented by Bet Online, and we will be back again Monday. So until next time, be a fan.